This episode is brought to you by H1M. New horror. Subscribe now. Don't listen alone. Welcome to Haunted Grove, the podcast that drags you into the darkest corners of the supernatural. Each episode delivers chilling short stories of vengeful spirits, haunted places, and things that should not exist. These are true encounters with the unknown, told to unsettle, disturb, and stay with you. Are you ready to face your fears? Then step into the grove and let the horror begin. My name is Colin Whitaker. I grew up in a small town called Harrow's Edge, Indiana. Like most small towns, it had its ghost stories. Stories that clung to the place like the thick fog rolling in off the river. Ours centered around a crumbling ruin on the edge of town. A place we all called the Cairn Factory. In its prime, it had churned out brick and steel. By the mid-'80s, it was just a hollow skeleton. Its windows smashed out, its roof caved in. And when I was a teenager, something happened that cemented its place in our local nightmares. In 1986, during a bitterly cold January, the factory was sold to a scrap metal company. They stored barrels of volatile chemicals inside, illegally. One night, 2 of those barrels ruptured. The explosion shook the town awake. The fire consumed half the factory, and a man named Armand Bode, a quiet laborer who barely spoke English, was blinded by acid and choked by chemical smoke. He vanished after that, only to be found dead 11 months later, living inside that ruin, they said, alone, frozen, unclaimed by anyone. Fast forward to the winter of 1994. I was home from college, staying with my folks. That night at the old Crescent Bar, I met a backpacker. His name was Leo, wiry, tired-looking, polite. We got to talking, and I offered him our couch for the night. On the drive, Leo told me about trying to sleep the night before inside the Cairn Factory. His voice went hollow as he spoke. He'd forced his way in through a broken window, curled up in a corner of the second floor. But before he fell asleep, he spotted something written in the dust on a fallen beam. It said, "It's time to work, but I have no eyes." Hours later, he woke, and on the floor, near where he'd been lying, the same words had been brushed into the grime. The same words, "Closer." He left in terror, running through the factory's black maze until he stumbled out into the night. That story haunted me. Every time I passed the factory, I imagined those words appearing on the walls, on the floors, closer and closer. I told a few friends. Nobody had heard of anyone sneaking in, but I watched. I watched for years. In 2003, when my sister asked me to house sit for her in a home with a view of the factory, I thought nothing of it. Until her daughter, Jenna, said she'd seen someone standing inside the fence. Night after night, a man, not moving, just watching. One night, Jenna pointed to a high window of the factory. There, dim light, and a figure. A man, silhouetted. The light flickered and died, taking the figure with it. I called the police. They checked. Nothing. But they found fresh writing inside. It said, "I have to leave, but I have no eyes." The years rolled on. The factory rotted, but no one tore it down. I tried to forget. Then one night, in 2018, Leo came back into my life. He'd moved nearby. Said he couldn't stop thinking about that night. Together we decided, We had to go inside to see what waited in the dark. We broke in at dawn. The place was a tomb. Every creak of the floor, every breath felt stolen. On the basement level, we found it. 3 wooden crosses, jagged and hand-carved, standing in cracked earth. And at their base, a small, bright pink bucket. Inside, a human hand. Withered, shivering in the beam of our flashlights, and carved into a stone nearby. Armand Bode. Died January 1986, set free March 5th, 2018 by Jenna Sloan. Jenna, my niece. What had she done? What had she found? Or what had found her? We left that place. Leo was a ghost, pale and shaking. I was a man trapped in a waking nightmare. My comfort zone was now the desperate need to understand what Jenna had done, what she had set free. The memory of that withered hand and the inscription burned behind my eyes. The factory still stands, waiting for the next visitor, and I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to my bones, that it was waiting for me. I needed to find Jenna. I needed to know what set free meant, what she had traded, and why Armand Bode's name was etched into that stone with hers. I needed to understand what was still in that factory, and if it was truly free, what it wanted next. The thought that Jenna, my niece, could be involved in something so dark, so wrong, gnawed at me. I confronted my sister, Jenna's mother. The conversation was strained, desperate, but eventually she broke down. Jenna had been struggling with deep depression, feeling lost and unseen. She'd found an old online forum, a fringe group obsessed with local legends and gateways. They spoke of places where energy accumulated, where old pains could be released. Jenna had gone to the Cairn Factory on that date, not to summon, but to release a presence she felt trapped there, hoping it would free her own burdens. She had been instructed by the forum's anonymous leader to perform a specific cleansing ritual, involving an offering and a chant, which she believed would bring peace to a restless spirit. The pink bucket was for the offering. My sister showed me Jenna's online posts, encrypted messages, and a crude map Jenna had drawn of the factory. I spent days poring over them, adapting to the language of fringe occultism and desperate spirituality. I learned that the online group believed Bode's spirit was incomplete, trapped by his blindness and the manner of his death, constantly trying to work to find his missing senses. The ritual was meant to give him a piece of sight or sensation from the living, allowing him to finally perceive and move on, or so Jenna had been led to believe. The hand was a symbolic offering from the living to the dead. The true horror was that the group knew the factory was still active, still drawing in the vulnerable. The group's leader was obsessed with collecting these releases. I finally found Jenna. She was withdrawn, pale but physically unharmed. She confessed everything, believing she had helped someone find peace. But she also spoke of a strange connection she now felt to the factory, a subtle hum, and the faint, persistent smell of chemicals and old brick on the air around her, even miles away. She described hearing whispers, urging her to finish the work. She was unknowingly still a conduit, still connected to whatever she had set free. The inscription wasn't about freeing Bode, it was about freeing a part of Bode, or perhaps something that used Bode to be active in the world again. The heavy price was realizing the true nature of the horror. It wasn't just a ghost. It was an active, malevolent hunger. Jenna hadn't freed Bode. She had reactivated him, or something through him, by giving it what it needed. A connection to the living world, eyes and senses it craved. And now Jenna was suffering for it, her mind subtly tainted. My own obsession with the factory had put my niece in peril. I felt a crushing weight of guilt. I knew the man not moving, just watching Jenna had seen wasn't Bode trapped, but Bode active, observing, preparing for his release. The police had found fresh writing because it was new writing, a recent activity, not an old message. The factory was no longer just a ruin, it was a new kind of trap. I brought Jenna home, away from the influence of the online group and the factory. My familiar situation of Harrow's edge was now forever tainted, the factory a looming presence on the edge of my consciousness. I dedicated myself to her recovery, to disconnecting her from that insidious pull. We never spoke of the factory again, not directly. I am no longer just a man haunted by a local legend. I am a witness to a slow, creeping horror that still exists. I know that setting free doesn't mean peace for the dead, but activation for something far worse. The factory still stands, a monument to a terrible transaction. I no longer drive past it without a shiver, a glance into its dark windows, wondering if something is watching back. And I live with the terrifying uncertainty that even though we walked away, Armand Bode, or whatever he has become, is still out there, incomplete, eternally working, forever seeking. The story doesn't end, it just waits. And that's where we leave you for this journey into the unknown on Haunted Grove. Thank you for daring to listen to tonight's chilling tales. If these stories have lingered with you, please consider following us on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave a rating or review. It truly helps more sleepless souls find their way to the Grove. Join us again in 2 weeks for another descent into the darkness. Until then, keep the lights on and stay safe.